procurement. So we must acknowledge that MSMEs are severely challenged. According to some sources, Nigerian MSMEs are seriously challenged by issues ranging from limited access to affordable finance, undercapitalization, and difficulty with access to bank credits, lack of proper bookkeeping, lack of proper records, or lack of any records at all, inability to separate business and family or personal finances, inability to distinguish between revenue and profit, high cost of doing business, bureaucratic bottlenecks, corruption, and lack of transparency arising from government regulation and regulators, irregular power supply, and other infrastructural inadequacies, for example, around water, roads, and roads is a very topical one with the situation in Lagos today, to unfavorable fiscal policies, multiple taxation, levies and rates, energy crises or shortages, policy inconsistencies, reversals and shocks, as well as government's lack of interest or focus in addressing the specific factors responsible for the abysmal performance of the subsector, just to mention a few. But are these issues totally beyond the MSMEs themselves? Does being an MSME doom an enterprise to a lack of access to finance, to a lack of access to markets, know-how, and technology? Is access to infrastructure related to it? Is it a magnet for bullying actions of regulators with their complex, opaque processes, brazen breaches of those processes, and seeming lack of accountability as there is no room for redress and restitution? Do MSMEs not have access to the right advisory services? Despite the great importance of micro, small, and medium enterprises, development banks and donors alike across the world have had cause to prevent many, as well as large organizations, from participating further in their activities because of integrity issues, such as falsification of their year of incorporation, doctoring the value of reference contracts, tampering with experience of key personnel, and so on, in a process that they now call debarment. In these development circles, cross-debarment is common, meaning if the African Development Bank debars you, which is a very nice word for saying they caught you cheating and they have now banned you from participating in their activities for 2 years. Know that it is the same for the World Bank. They have automatically banned you. Even the Asian Development Bank has automatically banned you. IFC has banned you. And even donor organizations that look up these debarment lists, like DFID and so on, will also ban you for that period from being able to do business with them. Therefore, the implications of falling short is very far-reaching. After a period of 48 months, such companies can be allowed back, but only on evidence of having implemented an integrity compliance program consistent with international guidelines. Large companies typically afford that, but for the MSME, it tends to spell the end of the business as they used to know it. They typically don't survive long after that. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it appears that informality of MSMEs, absence of effective governance structures and internal controls leave stakeholders somewhat dubious of the business model and capacities of MSMEs. We conclude that doubtful ethics is the same as doubtful business for the MSME. regardless of how the challenges appeared at first, they seem to relate more to things which the MSME can control than what cannot be controlled. It would appear that given the right guidance, MSMEs can improve their chances of growth and survival now. Of course, MSMEs would like to push back at this point. I hear someone say in the audience, who ethics ep? Abi, now who ethics ep? In a country of great general lawlessness, show me one government subsidy or contract that you could not get without demonstrating your ethics. And it's true. Where is the ethics of all of those who are collecting petroleum subsidy? Where was ethics at that time? All of those doing anchor borrower program and coming back and saying, sorry, only 20% of people paid back. Only 30% of people paid back. And nothing happens. Where is ethics in all of that? Yet, no matter how brazen you are, no self-respecting private sector entity would allow you into their supply of value chains with known false representation, because they will carry out their due diligence. If they don't catch you today, the chances are they will catch you tomorrow. And once they do, you are debarred from continuing to do business with them. Another person might say, are these standards not just another set of obstacles that you want to put in the way of MSMEs who are already struggling for their growth and survival? How many large companies worry about ethics? So what's this ethics thing? With large companies representing only 4% of the private sector, it is not too difficult for one of them to successfully position and win business at first on the basis of man no man. But capability issues will soon creep in before long, and integrity issues will come back to haunt them. For the MSME, can you even distinguish yourself from the 96%? You're talking about the larger companies, they are 4%. But you're part of a whole morass called 96%. How do you distinguish yourself? What would your strategy be when you hear banks don't want to deal with you because you are too informal? Or that banks don't want to give you a loan because they think you have no internal controls or governance? How can something as simple as subscribing to training and certification make a difference? Will all this matter to a bank or a financial institution, or to a donor for that matter, or to my employer? Yes, it begins with the standard. There is a framework that is internationally recognized called the COSO 2013 framework. It spells out the issues an enterprise must get right to convince third parties of the efforts it has made to provide for its governance and internal controls. Big banks like First Bank understand it in much the same way as donors such as the MacArthur Foundation or DFID do. And why do I say that? The Convention on Business Integrity received a grant about 2 years ago from the MacArthur Foundation. And the first thing the reviewers did when they came to visit us and look at our books was to bring out the COSO 2013 framework and start to benchmark us against that framework. Failure against that framework is also failure to be cleared to receive any grants. As was mentioned by ActionAid, before our partnership with ActionAid commenced, the same thing had to happen. The same thing had to happen in that until ActionAid was satisfied about the processes and procedures in place, then they were not willing to do business at all. So how does this rescue you from being bullied by your regulators? MSMEs would all benefit from standing up to their various regulators, but it has an associated cost that makes it implausible that any individual MSME can or will undertake to bail this cat alone. This is a collective action problem. But today, technology can be used to simulate the collective and win you this protection. Like most other MSMEs, you are probably terrified of the tax authorities. Like we too have learned to greatly respect them after they decided to descend on us and do a 2006 to 2013 review. Then they did a 2013 to 2016 review. Then they started the 2017 review. Then they're now doing a 2018 review. In fact, you will get very wise and start to fear your your tax regulators after a while. So, but imagine that there was a tax expert who could do your tax returns for you affordably. Would you use their services? Imagine 200 MSMEs using one service provider who would batch the properly checked tax returns and present it to the government on their behalf. They would take the sting out of dealing with the authorities for you, and with economies of scale, they would provide you with something affordable. Sorry, I'm hearing the GDP of Nigeria. Okay. So they would provide you something affordable. So we, on the other hand, would ensure due diligence on behalf of the collective so that the corrupt don't get put up or put forward as such service providers. Think about it. There is an opportunity to have those who are experienced deal with the regulators on behalf of the MSMEs so they can be more compliant than they currently are. So how will it help me win and retain more business? I hear you say. Demonstrating competence in it will help you stand out from the crowd. If all banks and financial institutions believe that MSMEs are not properly structured and that they are informal, but you have all your registrations with the requisite regulatory authorities, that should stand you out. If they believe they have no governance and they have no internal controls, but your processes are certifiable to COSO 2013 standards, surely that should stand you out for something. So don't do ethics for the sake of ethics. Use ethics as an instrument, a competitive edge, a marketing instrument, something that sets your organization apart in a climate where everyone is tarred with the same brush, and it's the brush of incompetence, the brush of unethical practices, and so on. Two further opportunities then open up for you. Number one, the Center for International Private Enterprise, CIPE, an affiliate of the U.S. Chambers of Commerce, will be launching a project in 2020 called Ethics First, which will create a white list of African entities meeting ethics and anti-corruption standards in Africa to make discovery by American counterparts easier. Won't it be fantastic if your entity was on the list of those who are compliant? So those who are looking for partners don't need to look very far before they find you. Secondly, as a result of Brexit, the UK government has launched a project called the Business Integrity Initiative and is encouraging UK companies to export more to frontier countries like Nigeria, however, without falling victim to corruption. When they come to Nigeria, how will they discover your enterprise? And if they never do business, if you never do business with a foreign entity, would this position you to better bid for work with the larger corporations in Nigeria like MTN, Dangote, ShopRite, Oando, and so on? If it does, then would we have proven that ethics and integrity pay? These issues, like I said earlier, are not beyond MSMEs. MSMEs can take the lead in activities that improve their chances of growth and survival now. Nigeria's economy is going through a transition, and MSMEs that will make it through, bigger and stronger, will be the ones that did not leave things to chance, but adopted a deliberate strategy. Today, with the panel discussions and presentations, we hope to explore these possibilities in greater detail. We accept that ethics and integrity are no substitutes for a good business model, and that it takes more than that to succeed. But we ask, what business model, no matter how good, will attract the funding and support it deserves without demonstrating proper governance and internal controls? What business can withstand regulatory pressure consistently without demonstrating compliance with basic regulations and consistency in approach, even where the assessors are not clean? It is time to break free of our seeming helplessness and build enterprises that can survive and grow. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for listening. I know that you're probably already eager to ask your questions, but I'll have to ask you to just hold on with those questions till we have the panel session, which is not going to be long. And to join us on the panel, let me invite Ms. Tosin Ojo, who is an investment manager with SME.ng. A round of applause with her, which is an impact investment platform that invests in women and youth-owned micro, small, and medium enterprises to realize social, environmental, as well as financial returns. Within SME.ng, Tosin manages the AB Fund, an access to market and financial inclusion fund for women-owned micro enterprises at the bottom of the pyramid. Prior to this, Tosin was vice president in the CEO's office at Chapel Hill Denham, Nigeria's foremost independent investment bank, providing analytical support on strategic projects. She has over 12 years experience, mostly spanning investment research and investment management. Tosin is a first-class graduate of Obafemi Awolowo University, Nigeria, and a CFA charter holder. She holds an MBA from Said Business School, University of Oxford. A round of applause for her. And you will agree with me that she is eminent. I would also like to invite Mrs. Ayodele Olojede, who is the Group Head, Emerging Businesses, Access Bank. Ayo Olojede is the Group Head, Emerging Businesses at Access Bank. She's responsible for the strategy formulation to deliver the bottom line factor of the division. Ayo has over 18 years operational banking experience in Africa and North America at HSBC and Skybank, now Polaris, prior to joining Access Bank. She's very passionate about the sustainable growth of MSMEs and possesses strong knowledge and hands-on experience of best practices in SME banking and risk management approaches to expand financial access to SMEs and women-led businesses. Her work has achieved recognition for best-in-class SME-specific credit assessment methodology, both locally and internationally, to expand lending to new to borrowing SMEs. She is a university scholar, a fellow chartered accountant, and holds an MBA degree from Kellogg School of Management, Evanston. You're welcome. I would like to invite, they say it is you cannot shave a man's head in his absence. So permit me to invite Mr. Solomon Aderoju, GSC AICA, FPMF, FCIB, MSc Finance, Chairman, Lagos Chapter of National Association of SMEs. Mr. Aderoju is a professional banker with more than 25 years cognate experience. He is currently Chairman, National Association of Small and Medium Enterprises in Lagos. He is a fellow and once a governing council member of the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, as well as a fellow and serving governing council member of Institute of Portfolio Management of Nigeria. He is also an associate member of the Institute of Credit Administration. Mr. Aderoju is a graduate of Banking and Finance, having attended Olabisi Onabanjo University, Agowoye, Ogun State in 2004, qualified as a chartered banker in April 1994 though, and he holds an MSc Finance, which was obtained from Crescent University, Abeokuta, Ogun State. Please, a round of applause for him. Do we have Honorable Kehinde Shogunle in the room now? Okay. Please permit me to invite my senior brother, Dr. Peter Bamkole of the Enterprise Development Services of the Pan-African University, to please join us on the panel. I apologize to him earlier for imposing on him like this last minute. Because I think it is important, apart from the balance, it's important to get the views of both those who are practicing, those who are holding the short end of the stick, and also those who are really helping to develop SMEs in Nigeria. So I don't know if we could start with a round of comments on the keynote address. Because you never know, there might be serious omissions, there might be even serious errors that we may have inadvertently introduced, but it will be good to go around and have a quick round of submissions based on what I've shared so far before we go into a quick question and answer session. We'll start with you, sir.
So maybe I will stand because this is basically covering me.
Can you help me?
Yeah, if they move it, then it's easier, then I can sit. Okay, thank you very much. Just a few things that maybe confused me first. The contribution to GDP by MSMEs, is it 1%, is it 48%? This is something that we need to clear very well, because in recent times, yes, I have been hearing more of 48% to 50% rather than 1%. And we need to be very clear, because with all that is happening, I believe we're doing much more than 1%. I agree with almost every other thing you said, except that you focused attention too much on the finance, bookkeeping, and everything to do with access to capital. Now, there are many more things that MSMEs are supposed to solve or resolve before, and access to finance seems to be one of them, but it may not necessarily be the most important. In fact, I captured this in my recent research, which I call MISFIT. MISFIT is an acronym for what is constraining small businesses to grow. M is lack of access to market. I you capture that, which is a lot of access to infrastructure. Now, the S is the lack of access to support services. And this is where you have the gamut of building their capacities and the capacity of those that work for them and with them, and all things around compliance and making sure that they are good and ready for investment, okay? And then the F, of course, is the one that we all talk about, which is a lack of access to finance. And then the other I, which we always downplay, is access to information. Now, access to information leads to MSMEs being perished because they don't know that something exists and then they are languishing somewhere else. If you can bridge that through information in a very transparent way, then they will grow. And then the final one is lack of access to technology. We're seeing more and more, and part of the things you are doing today, again, is using technology. Now, very quickly, my main challenge or constraint is that when you do things of this nature, if you do not do it in such a way as to motivate, then you will not get the kind of traction that you require. So let me drill down a little bit. So if I'm just complying, and hoping that somebody somewhere will then see me on a white list, that's not good enough. However, if there is some pool of funds somewhere, and I am told that so long as I comply for the next X number of years, then I can access this grant, or I can access this Access Bank's money for X% that is very sweet and nice. Trust me, you do not need to use cane for the MSMEs. They will naturally gravitate towards that. And so the point that I'm trying to stress is that use more of motivation rather than focus on regulatory compliance alone, because the stick cannot do it all. The other thing is around tax authorities. I'm happy you brought it. And if you, at your level, could fear them, just like you fear God, then it says something very interesting. I mean, in the last 2 decades or so, I have been working with MSMEs. I have a minimum of 400,000 of them in my portfolio. And I can tell you, each time they walk through the class and we talk about tax, people just switch off. Not because they are not willing to pay, but the reality is that the tax authorities are not in any way, they just want to close down businesses. That's the final conclusion. I mean, I see somebody boasting that we have closed down X number of shops. That is a big problem to me, because you should be saying we have opened X number of. Look at the recent thing that happened to those that import cars. I have a few of my members that have those showrooms. This guy just went around and just closed everything. They don't even care. They just closed it first. And I said, what have we done? Say, meet us in Abuja. People in Lagos. These guys went to Abuja. They spent days and everything. At the end of the day, to be quite honest with you, you talk about anti-corruption, bribery, and everything. These guys showed me a list of how much they have to pay banks on the loans they have. They showed me this thing they call you are not complying. At the end of the day, you know, the servers to check whether they paid the duties or not was not working. The server was down for 3 days until they had to call the big boss, blah, blah, blah. Eventually, the server came up once you make a payment. Now, you can go there. Nobody is going to, whether I can prove it or I can't prove it, it's irrelevant. The fact is that the guy told me, he said, see, Banky, I have a choice. This payment is nothing compared to the interest that I am paying, the workers that I'm going to pay, yet my office is locked up for 6 weeks or 4 weeks, whatever. What do I do? And I'm just one of those MSMEs. Supposing we have, CBI, integrity, that can honestly advocate in a very serious way for these people, and they can say, look, we are behind you, charge us any small money, we will pay. But this will remain a talk point, sincerely, if we do not do something very serious. I believe in this integrity. I believe in corporate governance. I believe that we must do things correctly, but we must have those infrastructural mechanisms to make MSMEs work. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. For me, there are two sides, to the story. There's the demand side, and then there's the supply side. So I thought that the narrative focused more on the demand side, on what the MSMEs need to be doing more to be able to access finance. But I would want for us to also focus on policy infrastructures. And I'll give a couple of examples. And I'll say, I would, I'll put that in quote. That's the small work that has been done to be able to make the credit bureaus work. The little work that has been done in creating a lot of awareness around how you register your business. I mean, over 90% of the MSMEs do not even have businesses registered. That in itself is a challenge to even accessing finance. But because of the work that has been done to be able to expand the framework around credit bureaus, around business registration, for us at Access Bank, we have been able to increase our new to borrowing. And that's one of the things that you read when you were reading my profile, that we have people who have been in business for a long time, have never been able to borrow. We have been able to take that step, that extra risk, to be able to say, you know what, we can fund them because we have information available. So we're saying that there's a lot that needs to be done from regulation perspective to be able to help even the people who provide the finance to have more confidence in the system. You understand what I'm saying? So a lot of the work, a lot of the successes that we have recorded has been because of that. You take, if I, just going back a couple of years, for a bank to be able to lend money to any MSMEs, one of the things you want to ask is, let's find out from any bank where this customer currently banks with, let's find out whether he's doing very well. It will take close to about 2 weeks to even be able to get that letter. And at the end of the day, the letter tells you nothing, because no banks want to breach the confidentiality agreement to give out any information. So it was difficult, but today we don't have to do that anymore. Just sitting on my desk, we can just pull that information and then go ahead to be able to provide the required funding. And Mr. Bankole also talked about the need for financial education. It is very critical. Today in Access Bank, we are advertising and saying that women can take funding at 15%. And yet we are not even seeing the women. Isn't it, I mean, it's an irony that you're not even seeing them. You think that they would flock your door to say, okay, at 15%. Because there are so many issues around education. Women are too afraid to step out. A couple of women that I've spoken to, they will say to me, if I take a loan, I will not be able to sleep. But they are not understanding why finance is critical to them, what it is that they need to do to be properly positioned. And one of the things that we're trying to be able to do come 2020 is to be able to provide that financial education, even through little things as sending out SMS, sending out email, not necessarily having to gather them in a room. I mean, just aligning with the lifestyle of a woman to be able to let them know that just those little nuggets and understanding what it means for you to, why it's important for you to be able to take a loan. My own fashion designer, I was asking her, would you like to take facility to expand your business? And her first comment to me was like, no, I can't do that. It will be, you people won't let me rest. Okay. So I said, no compulsion. I'm just letting you know that that opportunity exists. Then eventually when she called me up one day and said, Ayo, I've been thinking about what you've been telling me, and I think I would like to take a loan now. So I said, okay, fantastic, let's go for it. And I said someone was going to come meet with her. And when the person came to talk to her, because one of the things that we have tried to do in recognition of the informality within which MSMEs operate is that we have trained officers to be able to gather information from MSMEs in a way that you can help them build a balance sheet. You can help them to be able to build a financial statement, a cash flow that recognizes all of their household expenses. And the lady called me back and said, okay, so your officer just left here, and he said I can only get 1 million. So I said, okay, so what's wrong with that? He said, it's too small. I said, oh, you've gone from not wanting to take a loan to saying that 1 million is small. It's because of how we have been able to analyze to say, you know what, this is our comfort zone on the basis of what we have seen, how you run your business. So start with that 1 million. And then when you do better, we can continue to scale. I personally would like to see your business scale. And then she said, okay. So you have a lot of all of those similarly little issues, but they run deep. And it's a lot of reasons why MSMEs are not able to be able to scale and survive, as you put it. But I did like what you said about who ethics ep. I like that one.
Okay. So I'm going to just start from where you stopped. Who ethics ep? The case for ethical behavior in Nigeria is very tough. That's the truth, because incentives shape human behavior, and when there are more disincentives than on the incentive side, by the human psychology, the design is that people will be less inclined to follow an ethical behavior. So I'll pick from what also Mr. Bankole said, and I'll expand from there. For compliance on this web-based app on ethical standards, instead of calling it ethics, I'll call it standards. Because there are a few things that, before we start thinking that we're asking for people to do something above and beyond, it's just even coming off from the ground to the minimum standard. And maybe something that can help with that is, for instance, we know that doing business with Nigerian government is tough, or maybe if you're in supply chain, if you're a contractor in any way, shape, or form to Nigerian government, or even supply chain of some of the big Nigerian entities who are not exactly ethically compliant, right? So, but if there are international organizations where small businesses can be part of their supply chain, for instance, I'm just giving just random examples. Let's say DFID or sometimes some of them, they have procurement that they announce that people can bid for. And if there's any opportunity for small businesses to be part of that, chain, if they meet certain standards, then from a business point of view, I know that the cost of complying with the ethics or the standards, it's paying off from another side in form of some revenue. So I think that can be one action point that, thankfully the National Association of Small Businesses is here. So in the all of that register, there might be businesses that can fit into some of these value chain of some of these other institutions. For instance, maybe an office wants to do furniture supply. I'm just using that as an example. So instead of chasing all these Nigerian businesses and Nigerian government and all the issues that will come with them, maybe people can start diversifying some of their business and be part of that value chain. They'll pay you on time, if you meet those standards. The problem is always that people see these standards as burdensome without any return or payoff coming from it. So that can help improve why people should comply. We need to look for areas where we can use the incentive to let people comply. That's one of the things I'm going to say. A few other things, just generally on SMEs. People is a major problem. We haven't mentioned it in many of the problems you have mentioned that SMEs face in Nigeria. Talent is tough. SMEs have a bigger challenge to even find talent or to even retain them because of their capacity maybe to pay, their capacity for so many other things. And the kind of talent that they then find, the whole ethical dilemma of Nigeria, it now comes in. You have untrustworthy staff, untrustworthy employees, and some of them don't have all the investment yet to put money in processes that can help them, monitor and be able to guide this stuff. So there's also something that needs to be done there. I don't know whether it's advocacy. I don't know what exactly it's supposed to be. But this whole thing about Nigerians just feeling like we have to cheat everybody, either in small businesses or big businesses. I think there's something that needs to be done there, and start, to start letting people see how just working in businesses, adds value to you, and it goes the other way as well, even with the business owners, right? The other thing I'm also going to mention, and this is probably where I'm going to end, is that there's a lot of capacity problems with small businesses in Nigeria, and that's the honest truth. When we say people should come and borrow money, people think that, when I always say access to finance is my problem, I just laugh, because by the time you ask people to come and you analyze the business, access to finance is like number 5 in the problem that you need. One of the things that SMEs need to realize is that capital is not free. I mean, there's a limited amount of capital. There's a finite amount of capital at every single time in the world. As of today, we can calculate the entire amount of capital that we have in the world. That's the truth. Capital is a finite resource. And therefore, any finite resource has to be put to the best use, to the most optimal use. So if I say money is available at 15%, I had some giggling. Some people thought that 15% is high. 15% per annum in an economy where up until last year inflation was 18%, if you have a great business, is a good deal. If your business cannot afford you to take a loan at 15%, maybe you should look at the fundamentals and the business model of that business again, and your pricing, because it's a high inflation environment. Even the Nigerian government is borrowing at 12% now. Sometimes it's higher than that. So the whole thing about capacity, it is important around how do we start helping small businesses to, in a way that they can implement it, as opposed to just, telling them what to do, but enforcing or helping them, implement it. Maybe working with their associations, working with different groups to ensure that it is implemented. It is when these things have been done, access to finance then become easier for most small businesses. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy because all of us here, we are here because of MSMEs. And I'm the chairman of MSME Lagos. In the first instance, I want to thank Mr. Kwankwa for this noble cause. We have been on together for the past, how many years now? 2 or 3 years. And the project was abandoned. He took it up again. So kudos to you, sir. And also I want to thank Action Aid that is supporting this goal. We'll go somewhere. I also want to thank all my members that are here. I can see Dr. Adams, the cooperative president, and so many other members of MSME. Well, from my own perspective, though Dr. Bankole has said a lot, looking at your paper, a very well-researched paper, the issue of GDP is not 1% anyway. We are contributing almost 50% to the GDP of the country. But I always say that we can do more if we're encouraged, if we're supported, if we're motivated. So the issue of GDP is settled. Then the issue is that we have a lot of problems confronting MSMEs in Nigeria. But like I always say, I went somewhere, this type of program last year. I told them, let's stop looking at the problem. What are the way out? I think we should focus on the solution now, not even the problem. The problems are fundamental. Where do you want to start? Is it the enabling environment? Is it lack of funding? Is it regulatory compliance issues? Is it a lack of tax holiday for new business? Is it multiple tax? Is it government policy that is not stable? Or what else? So we have to really look at what are the way out. Talking about lack of structure for MSMEs, I always say that at times it's giving a dog a bad name to hang it. Looking at MSMEs today, let's break it down. We have micro, we have small, we have medium. And the last statistic given by Smedan, we have 41.5 million in Nigeria as of 2017. And micro is
almost 98% of that figure. And when you say micro, these are people with less than 9 staff and capital base of 10 million, less than 10 million, excluding land and building. Then when you talk of small, you are talking of a company having staff of between 10 to 49 and capital base of 100 million, thereabouts. But how many companies, how many MSMEs can be in that small category if you have to go to that classification? So the most company in Nigeria, business in Nigeria, into micro. And some of them are not formalized. They don't belong to any BMOs. So you cannot even control their operational activities. That's one of the fundamental problems we have here today. Then talking about ethics, talking about corruption and bribery is fundamental. It's not only to MSMEs anyway. It has been part of Nigerian system. When you say Nigerian time, when you talk of corruption and bribery and ethics, it's Nigerian factor. So the MSME cannot be crucified for that. So that's what I'm saying now is that let's look at solution to all this problem. The first solution is having to have an enabling environment. I'm happy that Dr. Bankole has said a lot of things. Finance is not our problem. Because even if I borrow at 0%, if the environment is not conducive for me to repay, I will not be able to pay back. Because if I run my generator, I have my borehole, the roads are bad, the government policy is still somersaulting, and also we have a lot of regulatory compliance issues, tax issues and the like. There's no how I can repay back, even at 0%. So let's first of all look at enabling environment and fine-tune it. Then the second thing is that even the environment, we talk of infrastructure. Yes, let's provide infrastructure. Then the use of training and retraining. Some of these windows, some of these things, because our people, they don't even know about them. So we need to train ourselves. And that is why NASME today, one of the key and focal objectives of NASME is capacity building. We keep on training ourselves. Today we have an EDC, Entrepreneurship Development Center, whereby we train ourselves from time to time. So we need training and retraining. And one of my co-panelists also mentioned information. When there's information gap, some of these windows, some of these regulatory issues, our people don't know them. So we need to really tell them about it. In banking, I'm happy I work in bank for over 20 years. When you want to borrow money, people will say 5 6 of credit. You talk of character, we have character now. We talk of capacity. We talk of condition, which is very, very key. Many people don't know that condition is even more important than character today. Because if I have a good character and the condition is not conducive for me to repay back, it will affect my character. It will also affect my capacity. So that is the problem now today. So then, unfortunately also, many banks today, they don't know the template. They don't have template for we, the SMEs. They don't understand the nitty-gritty of MSMEs. So we need to train ourselves more on how to finance MSMEs. The only people that are close to that is Lagos State Employment Trust Fund. They know they are financement of our members and we are repaying back. Another thing is lack of market access. I produce, I cannot sell. We have influx of imported goods, competing with our products. Our products are better. You can see them packaging our rice into foreign bags. I have Dr. Adams here. His rice is one of the best in Nigeria today. But people still prefer foreign rice. They said our own has a stone and all the like. In the 70s, we were eating local rice, and we did not die. Those of us that were born before we call ourselves BBC, born before computer. We were eating local rice. We didn't die. So let's continue to read our rights. Let's start from somewhere. So market accessibility is also very key. So when you talk of finance, I laugh. It's not finance that's our problem. And that's why many of us are not borrowing. Because when you borrow, we have some exogenous factor that will not help us to pay back. So why do I need to borrow more? When the bank, the credit bureau that my sister mentioned, will be trailing me up and down. So we have a lot of problems that we need to be addressed. So let's look at the solution. And more importantly, we talk much in Nigeria. This is not the time for talk. Let's walk the talk. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much for the opening. Just to bury the issue of 1%, that was provocative. I deliberately put both because you will find in the literature some claiming 1% when we all know that it's closer to 48, 50, or even much higher. So I put both there just for the sake of completeness, because some academics somewhere will say, but there are these academics who actually believe that it's much less. Also, we have, it seems like we highlighted finance, but we're really interested in incentives. So maybe it's the positioning. The first thing for bringing in the issue of finance is because whether we like it or not, and we say finance is not the problem, most SMEs have in their head that finance is the problem. And what we're hoping that we'll be able to do in the panel is to actually deconstruct it for them. That some things are a higher order of constraint before you reach the issue of finance. For example, no matter how good your business plan is, can Access Bank loan you if they don't know anything about your processes? Yes, please, if we can answer, let's have a quick round like that. Will Access Bank consider you? Yeah.
Okay, so before I respond to that, let me, I'm so sorry for the Mr. Aderoju. Yeah. He said something that is, very pertinent, that a lot of banks do not even understand how to lend to MSMEs. And that's true. Because a lot of banks in the industry will say that they are playing in the MSME space. But then when you engage for that, you find that the kind of product that they have are actually products that are meant for the commercial and the big type of customers. And so it's not aligned to the needs of MSMEs. But I make bold to say that Access Bank has invested. I talked about it earlier on. We have invested in our understanding of how to be able to lend to MSMEs. And, under emerging business where we take care of MSMEs, the anchor that drives what we do is focused on access to knowledge, access to market, and then access to finance. Being that when we take you through the capacity building programs, we'd help you through very affordable means of being able to expand your market opportunities, which assures that funds will be paid back. Then we also now work with you to fund your business. I made an attempt to be able to explain that we have officers that we call lending officers. When they sit with you and engage with you, because we understand that MSMEs operate in a different environment than large businesses, and their approach to financing is completely different from the way a large business approaches their finances. I've met some MSMEs who have said to me that, I actually keep records. I take notes of my expenses, but I never look at it. Some it's because they don't understand how to be able to do that. So even for an MSME, let's not even talk about the bank now. If you're not paying attention to the financial management and financial control of things, it's difficult to be able to scale. Because you don't even know how to assess your business on your own. Not to talk of being able to constructively engage with someone who is trying to be able to help you. So what we've done with our own officers is to train them to be able to ask the right questions. I recall there was a particular gentleman who is an accountant by training. And he said to me, your officers came to talk to me here, and I was thoroughly embarrassed that even as an accountant, it's not because I don't understand what it means to keep records, but I just never bothered to do it. I just don't do it. But then when when the engagement was done, I thought to myself that I was doing myself more of a disservice, not even making the attempt to keep records, because everything was in his head. He said, "I know everything. They're in my head." But that's why. So how will I be able to work with you? Because everything is in your head, and I'm supposed to. Okay, Mr. Bankole just helped me. He said through witchcraft. So we now work with them to ask them those questions. By the time we're done, we show them, look, this is the size of your business, because there's information asymmetry. And so we ask them in a way that we're comfortable to then be able to determine exactly what your equity in that business is from your balance sheet, what the free cash flow is, and then now use that as a proxy to be able to give you funding. So to the question that you asked me about the business plan, if the business plan, my point here is that we are not even waiting for you to come to us with a business plan, because we know that that business plan in itself might be ineffective. And by the time we're done reading it, we're still not comfortable giving you. So we are coming to you to say, okay, let's sit down, let's talk about this. We would even look at what is it that you have in your store. We'll carry out the valuation, because, of course, those are the items. It's almost like you want to give money to a Cadbury, and you're asking for their financial statement, right? A lot of banks would only lend to MSMEs on the basis of the transactions that you route through the bank. But we are not doing so. That's why we're asking to build your financial statement, and then we can now also use even your other bank statement. MSMEs, we say over 90% of them do not even have businesses registered. So they route their sales process to their personal current account, to their savings account. One of the things that we have also started doing, because our lending policy would say that if you've not been in business, as evidenced by your registration document for at least 12 months, we will not even deal with you. We have even gone beyond that. We're saying that we want you to register your business, because that's how we can track you. Let's even see what you have been doing before, because we also partner
regulatory
with
compliance.
Yes. So we partner with lawyers to be able to help them register the business. So we even look at your transactions in your personal current account to evidence what you have been doing, and then we still lend money to you. What is interesting about this particular method is one of the things I was talking about, the policy infrastructure, is that we're also leveraging the National Collateral Registry to be able to now register those items, because we're not asking you for those tangible items that we know you do not have. So we're using information. Information for us is proxy to collateral. And financial information is the single most important variable in any underwriting decision. Even if you come to me as an individual, or I go to Mr. Bankole to say, can you lend me 2 million? He will ask me, okay, how much are you earning? Because he wants to be sure that I have enough money to be able to pay back.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Okay, so Mr. Bankole, I'm going to come to you. But let me ask first, is there then room for getting a way of aggregating services for SMEs? Because it sounds like that's the crucial thing. Even the access to market. If you speak in agriculture, the first thing anyone in agriculture tells you is no market, which is not true. It's just, I don't have the discipline, I don't know how to find a market. That is really what they're saying. Not that there's no market. People are selling every day, but I don't know how to. So finding a way to bridge that for them, it sounds like you need a group of service providers who are dedicated to helping SMEs. Yes.
Okay, please, just one question. How many of us, by a show of hand, have digitized their processes, especially payments, in any way in this room? Digitize. That means you are not collecting cash and you are not paying cash.
And you are not using check either.
And you are not using checkbook. You see, please, this is the first problem. This is the very first problem. And until we change our mindset, we're not going to solve this problem. Let me explain to you why I'm saying this. In fact, it didn't dawn on me until I had a conversation with my daughter. And that day, I was going to the bank. This was a few years ago. They just sold to me these special accounts. So they had this special checkbook, blah, blah, blah. So I was going to pick it up. And she looked at me and said, what do you need a checkbook for? And I said, checkbook is for writing check to withdraw money or to give money to somebody. He said, no, I understand the meaning of check, but nobody uses it. Yeah. I said, what do you mean by nobody uses it? In fact, when I collect it today, I will prove to you that people use checks. 4 years down the road, I only use 4 checks out of the entire booklet. So it means that at the end of 50 years, hopefully, I will have finished 1 checkbook. Hopefully. Oh. Now, yet, with this same bank, I transact a minimum, I do minimum of 20, 25 transactions a week. Yet, 1 checkbook, 1 check leave per year. Did you understand? Now, the real thing is that all the issues that you were talking about, if you do all your transactions digitally and everything, you don't even need to go to the place. You will just open up and you will see everything. Luckily, because of this BVN thing, we can trace every transaction that you have made everywhere. And in less than 30 seconds, they can take a decision on you. A credit decision in less than 30 seconds. There are algorithms that are programmed to be able to do that. Even from your phone, because your phone is linked to those accounts. And all of those things can be done in less than 30 seconds. So the first thing is that we are the ones doing ourselves if we don't digitize. That's the first point. The second thing is that, I like the word you use, standards. Standard doesn't scare. Ethics scares. And I think it's a very valid point. I know that we are trying to be ethical and everything, and there's no point in coloring anything. But standard is also very good, and it's very acceptable. So I can strive to meet standards. But when you say, I want to be ethically compliant in Nigeria, you're already putting a burden on your head. But if it is standard, it is not a burden. It's a positive thing to strive for. Now, you talk about, can we aggregate services? Yes. 1, it is cheaper. 2, it means that we can get higher quality for less price. And I like the example of the tax you gave. The reality is that most MSMEs use things. However, if you have them put together and one chartered tax guy is the one managing it, he can even stand in front of the tax authority and say, sorry. So he's doing tax, but he's also doing advocacy at the same time.
Thank you, sir.
So there are so many things that they will get out of it. But then, my question is, how do we aggregate those people and how do we help them? Again, you come back to the issue of digitization. Because if we're able to digitize and see people very quickly in a transparent way, then it is easier for me. Especially when I know that if I do X, Y, Z, I'm likely to be motivated or incentivized to get certain things. But yes, we've done it with accounting. We're doing it now with tax to a limited extent. But you don't have to be. I think it's important to be registered. Let's be very clear.
Yes.
It's very important. Otherwise, you are not a corporate citizen of Nigeria. We are not seeing you. But, when there is a problem, let us not say because of that problem, we will run away. Let us look for the solution to that problem. The banks, when I talk to SMEs, I said, why are you not putting your money in the banks? They said, they will charge me COT. And very recently now, they are charging them stamp duty. Whether it's stamp duty or whatever, this 50 naira thing. It's a big problem, and these are things that we need to honestly solve. I give you a very simple example. I have one of my members who runs cafeteria services. And on the average, he has something like maybe walk through, he will get maybe 200 people, 300 people. And on each one, he has to pay 50 naira. And he's asked me, he said, does it make sense? If he collects cash and pays, they will also charge him. So what do? He says, sorry, if you want to eat, you add 50 naira. You go to petrol station now, they do the same to you. They pay 50 naira. Now, does it make sense? And these are the things we need to talk about, because what you are essentially doing is that you are disincentivizing these SMEs to also go digital. That's where I rest my point.
I think this is something that CBI can take up.
Yes.
One of the issues for advocacy next year is to look at these things that are disincentivizing the kind of behaviors that we're looking at. So please, the CBI team, just note this down as a very important thing we'll take next year. But what about the issue of the standard that should be applied? We have been talking, we've seen this COSO 2013. It's a very simple framework. We have seen it used by First Bank, we have seen it used by donors, we have seen it used by others. But before I even go there, we believe that that scenario of having a tax expert aggregates things on behalf of the SMEs is possible if we have a portal. We know not everybody can be on a portal, but at least some. And those who are on the portal will be able to register for those services, including learning. So what they should be getting is e-learning and preparation for certification, in a way that if there's any area where they're deficient, they should also be able to find service providers on the same system who can then help them. No compulsion. You don't have to use it, but at least you know where to go for help. So, madam, what standards do you consider when you are lending to SMEs? Because you talked about people at the bottom of the pyramid, which is really the smallest micro enterprises that you lend to. How do you worry about internal controls and governance? Because, or is it not even part of what you consider?
Okay, so for the bottom of pyramid strategy, like you said, MSME is 41.5 million, over 90% micro, and maybe over 90% of the micro not formal. They are totally unregistered. So we're talking really about the 10% that is registered, have any form of registration and at the micro level, which is tiny. Our strategy so let me introduce the EBI fund quickly. So it's a access to market and financial inclusion fund. So we do two things. We help through partnerships, reach women at the bottom of pyramid, and we are focused on women only. Let me also mention that. We reach women at the bottom of the pyramid, but the access to market part is to reach like the former micro SMEs who are having these issues around I can access markets, capacity issues, and all of these things. And EBI Fund is just one of the platform. It's just one of the entities on the SME-NG platform. On that platform, we also have an all-women accelerator. She works here. And we have another women investment fund, which is not relevant to this conversation, which is for more established women businesses. But similar to what you said, there's no way you can do an SME or micro SME intervention in Nigeria without understanding that you have to deal with capacity before you can lend. And so when people come and say, today I want to borrow money, when you start, they might not be able to access funds until the next 6 months because you realize very quickly that there are no records at all. And that's where you are starting from. Now, the EBI fund, our own uniqueness, though, is that we have a pre-investment readiness portion, which is financed by grant. The EBI fund, we use blended financing model, which means we can leverage both philanthropic capital and investment capital for the fund. And therefore, that pre-investment readiness part, we can help you do a few things like register your business, like accounting, tax, and many of those issues. But the point around having a portal and aggregation is very important because there's so many. When we look at the numbers, 41 million, even if I take 10% of that, that's 4 million. So that's a lot. So we really there cannot be any scale without digitizing, and that's just the truth. So people that are scared of digitizing records, and digitizing, maybe digital stands very, big. It simply means taking the record from book and putting it on a computer. And once you have it on a computer, at some point someone can access it, you can save it somewhere. There are payment solutions today that you don't even need to have a business name registration, and you can have a payment, I think account. They can collect money on your behalf and pay to you before you have a business name registration. So there's a lot that is going on that micro SMEs should take advantage of. But back to my point, the investment readiness part is really to say that before we can lend you real money, this part is to help you do a few things, and that money will not be given to you directly. So similar to what you said, you help you do some of your account, regulatory, maybe NAFDAC. People have products that are not even certified. So when you say access to market, ShopRite cannot put your product in the store if it does not have NAFDAC number. People have products that don't have batch number, that don't have expiry dates, because maybe they don't have the equipment to do batch number and all those things. But we recognize those things. So people must understand that it's a journey. Getting money, it's a journey. And the starting point is to focus on your processes and be patient to walk through that and improve. Even if at the end of the day you don't get money, guess what? The improvement in your processes, you can leverage internal capital to even run your businesses before you get to the point where you then lend money. For the bottom of pyramid one, we walk through partnerships. Our intention with bottom of pyramid really is to move them gradually from that informal level to where they become a formal micro enterprise. So we use partnerships with grassroots organizations that are like cooperatives and have reach to bottom of pyramid women. Now, those cooperatives, what do? It's called social underwriting. The reason why we have to focus on the financial part of underwriting is because we don't have that communal interaction and one-on-one interaction. Social underwriting has been proven to work globally. There's an organization, kiva.org. It's a crowd lending platform to micro enterprises globally. And you can give money as low as $25 to a small farmer in Kenya. They've given out over $1 billion in loans, and their repayment rate is over 96%. And it's purely social underwriting. They use community. So, someone in the community is the guarantor for everybody, and they know their house. They know the name of their children. They know everything. So you realize that even those people default less. The problem is that it cannot be part of formal lending until the businesses get more structured. And at that point also, their ticket sizes are really low. So we're hoping that with the having access to financial inclusion, they can gradually come up a little bit and, then register the business, and then we can work with them. So that's the approach we've been adopting in ensuring that, people have the right standards to be able to access financing.
Open it to one or two questions, cognizant of the fact that we have a hard stop on your time, sir. I'm coming to you, sir. Okay. You exactly. I would like you to please respond to what our three panelists have said so far, especially the things that you feel we can take forward from this, because it's about solutions. Before we open it also to the audience to give us one or two contributions for solutions before we then do the presentation on the portal itself to see some of these things, whether they have been considered or not.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moderator. What I just want to add, I concur with what they have suggested concerning the use of standard. Because when you talk of ethics and professionalism go together, but when you say standard, let's know this standard. And like Madam said, information is very key, because we need to understand those standards, digest them, use our local language to really understand what those standards are. Then when we talk of service provider, not that they have not been coming to us, they have been coming, but at what cost? The paper you gave to me, I have to mark the list there, which is between 5,000, because we are MSMEs. But when a service provider now says we should be paying like 50,000, 100,000 every month, where is the money? So we have to look at the cost of those services. Then continuous advocacy, like what you are doing now, is very, very key, because we really need to look at advocacy. But equally important is the fact that we have to engage BMOs, because some of these things are done outside BMOs. Even the issue of tax, I've had cause to even advise tax authority that if you engage the business membership organizations like NASME, like NASI, like AME, like ASBON, some of these problems will be resolved. So we have to really put us into the picture and engage us. So the issue of technology is also very key. Even whether you are born before computer, so some of us now we use technology to drive our business. But we need to be trained and retrained from time to time. Thank you very much.
Okay, in order to get the best out of our panelists, because Mr. Peter Bankole has to go at 12. He has a meeting he cannot miss. So I would like us to take 3 questions from the audience, and I would like it particularly if the questions are specifically for him. The other panelists, we ask that you stay. We're not going to exceed 12:30 to 1 anyway for the whole event, just that he has to go at 12. And we commandeered him into the panel. So we apologize for that again. Do we have 3 quick questions? Yes, there's a gentleman over there. You were first. Another one there, and then we come to you here. Yes, these first 3. The gentleman there, yes.
All right.
Please make it very brief.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, once again.
It's still morning.
Yeah, morning. Okay, sorry. I want to go very, very fast. My name is Yakin.
No, please, just a question, please. A question, yes.
My name is Yakin Iskilu, a member of MSME Lagos. From the discussion there, I don't know how many of us have studied Finance Bill 2019, which has just been passed by the Senate, and they are waiting consideration by the House of Representatives. I think it takes care of some of the problems that we have been talking about of SME. First, the issue of classification of SMEs into small, medium, and what have you. What is there is different from what we know in terms of the classification. However, very, very critical is the amendment of tax law, like VAT, company income tax, and what have you. Now, where I am going is that particular bill has something that is missing, which I will appreciate if this gathering can do something about before the House of Rep passes the bill. And the issue is we need to have specification as to how tax revenue should be used. We should use that bill to set priority on infrastructure and human capital development deficit. It should be there so that the executive can be more disciplined as to how they are using the tax money, which can address some of the problems that SMEs are facing that made the chairman of MSME Lagos to say even at 0%, the SMEs cannot pay. Okay. It's very, very important that is done.
Thank you very much, sir. The gentleman, yes, in the middle there, yes.
Thank you, the moderator.
Very quickly, please, because we want a response also before 12.
Okay, I will do it very quickly. My name is Dume Festus. I run a media business. I've listened to the talk generally, and I also have to take action for this initiative.
Your question, sir. Otherwise, we have to move on to the next person.
My concern is the issue of lack of support service and information. I want the panelists to break it down in a more simpler way. People can have access to this support service and information. Because for me, for instance, we have talked about market and other side. If, for instance, there are certain things that individuals can do on their own without even needing the major professionals. Like, for instance, if you want to register a company, individuals can register a company on their own by CAC. And I think SME Social should also leverage the support of professionals around their area. You have brothers and sisters that have read accounting. You can use them and say, okay, let them practically do some of those things. I think we can look at those aspects to make sure for survival instead of us just making it more complex.
Thank you very much, sir. You will still have an opportunity to make contributions, and I'm sorry to be rushing you. The gentleman in front here.
Good morning, all. My name is Ejina Jibade. My question goes thus. What are we doing to localize technology in terms of adoption of methods that are adaptable to our own environment? In terms of technology, like, for example, all these payment gateways that we are adopting, do we put local content values into it? Because we cannot be continuing to do work or afterthought to know that the technology that we are adopting is actually working against us. So I think we should need to adopt local technology based on local environments.
Okay, I'm not sure I understand that question.
I said, what are we doing? What should be done, or what is the process of adoption for local content in our technology that we are adopting? Simple.
Yes, because most of these companies are local companies that are doing the payment gateways.
They are not. Find out.
Oh, okay.
Okay, let me start with the last question. There are different ways of looking at the same question. So we have designers, like the one that designed for her. Yeah, it's a local guy, lady here. She has staff here. They are designing and sewing and doing everything. However, the fabric is coming from out of Nigeria. Okay, even Ankara. Now, does that make it any less made in Nigeria? Let's reflect on it. The entire value chain is not 100% Nigeria, but we are adding value. So that's the first thing. So what we then need to do is, how do we get to the point where we add more value than where we are starting from? It's much better than importing everything. Okay? For payment systems, the reality is that in the last 3 to 4 years, there has been massive innovation in Nigeria around that. However, the point that I was expecting you to make is that it's still there is still a lot of control coming from Seattle on payments. That's the one I was hoping to hear from you. And so there are a lot of outward funds going out of Nigeria. If there is a way, and I'm trying to understand that localization you are talking about, is can we have a way in which we retain some of those outflows? Then it's a conversation that is going to happen in the next couple of years. It's not a problem. It's already on its way. Now, for Festus, again, the issue of support services and information. See, if you do not join either a BMO or one organization or the other, you think somebody is going to bring it to your lap. You are joking. So you have to make the first move. I don't care, honestly, whether it is NASI, NASME, MEMC, anything you call it. It's irrelevant. Be part of an ecosystem. They will help you. They will solve part of your LCCI, all of them. They do the same thing. Start from there, and then we can work our way forward. But I can tell you, there's a lot of e-learning going on today. A lot. In fact, as I speak to you, we're building one of the biggest ones we are going to have in Nigeria in the next 2 years. In fact, we are going beyond Nigeria. We're doing Africa. So, and at the end of the day, what we want to do is to democratize learning, so that with very small amount of money that I can use to take beer, you on your phone, you can learn in bits. So that way, there will be no big deal about it. But please, don't just use your phone to do Facebook, and use it to search and do correct things. Then you will not complain about it. And then to Yekini, the point you have raised is very valid. Unfortunately, we have not matured to the level where during those open forums we are able to ask for certain things. The first one that is important for me is that if you are doing a turnover of 25 million, you have a big break as far as the finance bill is concerned. That for me, and majority of that 40 million plus, they are not even doing 12 million. So it means that we're going to get them start working. However, I don't know how it's going to be implemented. Even if I exempt you, I want to track you. Because tracking you means that I can see how you are moving. And when you exceed that 25, you will enter the net. Sorry. This is the way it works. You have to work both ways. Now, as far as what they should use that tax revenue for, again, there are so many things that we have signed that is not even this one.
Are you able to hold the executive to those things? I want you to reflect about that. This is why this issue of, what CBI is doing and is very important. SBA, and we have to talk about maybe even NASME, SMIDAN, they have to do something whereby we speak with one voice. Then we can say, look, we don't have a problem in you taking this tax, but if you take it, X percentage should be plowed back into improving the conditions or the infrastructure or whatever it is, and then we all agree. But not just agree, we all monitor it, and there has to be a mechanism for monitoring it. Thank you very much.
Okay, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's not the end of the panel session, but I'll ask the panelists to please take a photograph with us. They will come down back to the table while we take a quick presentation on the portal itself. And then we continue discussions and answer questions and then end for the day. So we're not going to take much more of your time. So if I can ask the representatives of ActionAid to please join us quickly. So we take a quick photograph with the panelists before Mr. Bankole has to go. Yes, please. Thank you very much. Please join me in giving them a round of applause. No, please, we'll sit back at the table so you can see the presentation. Okay, so I'm going to ask Mr. Maduka Okafor of the Convention on Business Integrity to make a quick presentation on our Ethics QED platform, which will soon be renamed. A name more friendly and more congruent with meeting standards rather than chasing ethics. Okay. Over to you, Maduka.
Thank you very much, sir. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this event. I have 20 minutes, so I'll be quick. Hopefully, I'm able to showcase what we have, or most of the functionalities we have on the system. First of all, I'll start with what the business model is like. And I'm actually happy to present the business model because at least, having listened to the panelists, we were able to capture all these different customer segments that we expect on the portal. So first of all, here's the value proposition we have for the ethics QED. We hope, or we are hoping, that on ethics QED, on the side of the MSMEs, we are able to give them assurances of the anti-corruption, anti-bribery and corruption compliance standards, and we're also able to give them assurances of the COSO 2013 standards. Now, this will also, in a way, assist the banks, financial institutions, big-time investors to be able to expand their scope for beneficiaries. We also hope that this ethics QED as a platform should be able to link service providers who will provide these regulatory compliance services. By the time I go into the ethics QED, we'll see, just like it was mentioned here by the panelists, what we also try to do, or what we have done on this system, is to provide a platform where we can aggregate a pool of service providers. Now, if you may know, the Convention on Business Integrity, having done the rating of the companies listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, we are able to say for sure that these service providers that will be available on the platform are truly certified, because we do our own background checks before having them on the system. Also, the voluntary compliance assessment tools that are available on Ethics QED will help the MSMEs assess themselves internally to see where are we, what are we doing wrong, what do we still need to do to at least have an edge over other SMEs. Now, this in a way will make that particular business who is able to do this compliance check or assessment to stand out among its peers. Moving on, like I said, this is the business model. I'll just rush through it so that we'll have an idea before we go into the ethics QED proper. Now, these are customer segments. I listened carefully to the panelists, and I know we actually covered the customer segment, because on the list of our customer segment, the people we are targeting that will come to the ethics QED platform, soon to be changed, as I've been directed, would have the international donor agencies, because we know that most of these agencies give out monies as grants. We'll also be looking forward to having the banks and other financial institutions come on the platform. Now, the idea, or why we want them to come on this platform, is because for every MSME that registers on this platform and have these compliance assessments done and have these standards complied to through various templates that are available on this system, you will be listed on this particular system through the help of our partners, and it makes you visible and it makes you seen as a credible business, so that when banks come or when they are looking for SMEs to do business with or to give loans to, your business will be on this platform. Then we're also looking at the venture capital firms. Sometimes we call them investors. So they are also looking to see that these group of SMEs on this platform have gone through all these compliance tests, gotten help to be where they are supposed to be in terms of compliance. We're also looking at large enterprise companies, and of course, the major people we are targeting are the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprise companies. Because, as you know, this system will also serve as a marketplace for the SMEs and the service providers. Next, please. Now, these are the channels through which we use, or we want to use, to reach out to these various customer segments. We deploy the use of web services. We deploy the use of social media. Some of us have seen our tweets on Twitter already. We use partner channels. We have several partners that are on this platform. Mailing lists and roundtables. Now, subsequent discussions and roundtables will continue hinting on these platforms. Customer relations, we have the Center for Private Enterprise, and through the help of these people, we will have SME certified on the platform. We have the BAAC membership, business action against corruption. Then we have the membership organization, the BMOs. Next, please. I just want to rush through this. This is just the business model to show that we captured most of the things that we've heard today. Then these are the key resources we use for this system, because in doing this kind of portal, there are actually expenditures that were made. Next, please. We have the key partners we're looking at to support the system. Next, please. The key activities. These are the things we've done so far to bring the system up to this stage. The concept, development, and so on and so forth. Then the cost structure. We have cloud services. Of course, we have to maintain the hosting platform, media, content development, because we constantly have to load content to this system, templates and the rest of them, support services, trainings, launch event like this, the roundtable event. Next, please. Then the revenue streams, we're looking at the freemium services. Of course, once you get registered on the platform, there are so many tools and templates you have access to. You have the continuous assessment tools that are according to standards, COSO standards. Then we'll have the premium services, of course, because we have service providers on the platform. You have to, and that's again the advantage the system has. Just like one of us mentioned here at the panel, during the panel session, we have a pool of service providers. So it is no longer that you want to do tax registration, for example, or company registration, for example. You call a service provider who bills you, and when you need something else along that regulatory compliance, he bills you again. Here we have a pool of service providers that provide these services as a bunch, as a package, and you pay once at a very subsidized rate, plus other perks added to it, which includes templates, tools to use. So now, that's our business model. I just wanted to show that it captured the things we are expecting this system to do. If you would indulge me, I would like us to go straight to the ethics security portal. So I will show some of the major, I won't bore you with it, just some of the major things we've discussed at the panel session to show that we have these on this platform. To start with, this is the landing page of the ethics security portal. Now, because we know that so many SMEs are not aware of some of these standards, I'm even surprised to hear that about 90% of the SMEs that come for loan do not even have their business names registered. Question is, how do they intend to get these loans without even having visibility? Now, here's the good thing. You don't have to worry. And we are not saying that you must do it on this platform. But it would help you if on this platform you can have an aggregate of all the regulatory compliance requirements, NAFDAC registration, product registration, CAC registration, and so on and so forth. We have all these provided on this platform. For example, if you scroll down, okay, let's even do it from here. Just click on compliance requirements. These ones you don't need to register to get them. They are freemium service. You come to the platform, you want to check out the list of all the requirements based on regulatory compliance. For anyone you click, it takes you to the page where you see the list of requirements. And we did not develop these things. We got them from the appropriate sources, from authentic sources, and put them up here. Now you read through and you see the requirements. For example, click on any of them, for example. Now, when you click on it, it gives you the overview, even tells you the act, including the requirements, what you need to do to get registered. Now, it is our own way of letting you know, because this is a one-stop portal. We don't want you to go elsewhere. And the interface has been designed in such a way that it is very user-friendly. Now, from here, if you decide to work or to get your company registered still on this platform, it's very easy. All you need to do, my friend, is click here to get help. When you do that, it takes you to a place where you now see or search for the list of service providers, are CBI certified service providers. Now, the process of having a service provider on board, go to regulatory compliance. Now, select CAC registration. Now, our process is such that we do not just register service providers on the platform. We do our own background checks before they go through a series of background checks before we certify them. The reason is because we are hoping that you are coming on this platform is not because of that service provider, but it is because of Convention on Business Integrity. And CBI, like I've mentioned earlier on, has, through the corporate governance system, rated companies listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. So that alone gives us that credibility to assess, to know that you are credible enough to be on this platform. So when you do this, it will list for any of the service providers that have listed or posted services provided or they are providing. You see them on the platform. These are just test results, but we have valid service providers on the system registered already. So, for example, someone mentioned that we do not have local, sorry, sir. I mean, this is me. So, Mr. Papa might not be happy I'm taking too much time, but this is me. So, now, we have local payment gateway systems. We have them. The truth is, even some of us make that mistake of saying, Nigerians developed this, it won't be secured. It's not true. I'll show you, some of us may know it, but I'll show you how you get to know payment gateways that are secured. Now here, all you need to do is click on service request. It has given you the amount and the duration. I'll explain to you why those things are important. Because when you, as a service provider, as a service user, request for this service, an invoice, first of all, you go through this, you see the company name, the amount, the service type, duration, and so on and so, including the company's detail and RC number, just in case you want to have your own checks. The next thing you do, if you are satisfied with the terms and conditions this provider has given, scroll up, then request for this service. After now, what you get to see, yes, it's asking you this so you are sure. You see an invoice. I had to log in with this service user because it's a test account. Now, it shows you an invoice and tells you why you are paying this amount. Now, click on pay. Look at the top of the browser. From here, even before we proceed to the payment gateway, at the top, you can see something like a key lock. It tells you it is secured. That's what it tells you. So if you are using your card, be rest assured that you are safe. Now, if you doubt as much, what you need to do is to click on that key lock there. It shows you the site certificate. Click on certificate. It already tells you valid. Now, because we understand the GDPR use, we know that whatever data you're providing on this platform is encrypted. Nobody gets access to it. Nobody gets to see it. And tomorrow, if you come and say, I'm exhausted, I've exhausted the services here, I'm satisfied, I want to leave, please deactivate me on this system. All we need to do is to provide you a button. Once you click deactivate, it removes all your data on that portal. And permanently, because you have said you don't want anymore. But if you say deactivate, I'm still considering, it still remains. So we understand the use because we also strive so hard to be compliant with these regulations. 5 minutes more. Okay, this is the most interesting part, but let's leave it. Let's leave it. So I just want to show you that this is a local payment gateway. And I can tell you, dear friends, okay, I'll skip that. Next, please. Now, let's go back to the portal. And let's go to, now I want us to discuss something. There's something I need to show on this portal because we've talked so much about COSO 2013, COSO 2013, COSO 2013. And even I, as a developer, I do not fully understand what COSO 2013 is. But I know that I have implemented COSO 2013 standard on this platform. So please go to home page. Go to the home page. And let's quickly go straight to certification. There are other links where you can see that. I just don't want to take too much time. Then scroll down. Now let's go straight to the self-evaluation under governance and controls. Now, we have 3 major self-assessments you can do on this portal, but I'll focus on the COSO 2013. Now, go back to that slide. Let me show something. Go back to the slide. Sorry, we'll have to switch in between for a while. I have 4 minutes left. Now, if you notice, we have the COSO 2013 framework, and it has basically 4 components, which you are seeing: the control environment, risk assessment, control activities, information and communication. Now, each of them demonstrates what you need to do to be compliant with COSO 2013 standard. I heard from the panelists discuss that, and I also learned that if, for example, you come for a bank loan, having passed through the regulatory compliance, and when they get to see your account statement, and if it complies to COSO 2013 standards, that you have advantage of getting that loan. Now, go back to the... Now, if you notice, for each of those segments we have, like you saw on the slide, the questions, and this is COSO standard questions. So the questions for each of those components are here, telling you and listing what you need to have as evidence. Now, this service you are not paying for. It's a freemium service. So why wouldn't you, as an SME, come register on this platform, have this freemium service, check to even know if you are even up to 10% of attaining the COSO 2013 standard. So here you have all these questions, and for each of these objectives, it lists the evidence you need to have to show that you are compliant within that particular component under COSO 2013 standard. So what it does for you is, at the end of these responses, what happens is, it shows you like a scorecard and highlights the areas where you need help, where you are lagging behind with achieving these compliance standards. Next, after this, is to decide, do I want to be COSO 2013 compliant or not? There are 2 things you can do. Either you forget about the system, go elsewhere, get a service provider you trust to help you get these evidences. Or, on this same portal, since we are talking about having pool of service providers on this platform, still on this platform, decide, get straight to a service provider, trusted, certified, to help you achieve these. With this, I think I'm done, but I'm not really satisfied.
Okay, a round of applause for an IT man turned a businessman. Just to say, if you can put the slide of the COSO framework up there. It's important that we just take you through very quickly. So the control environment demonstrates commitment to integrity and ethical values. Very important. Exercises oversight responsibility, establishes structure, authority, and responsibility, demonstrates commitment to competence, enforces accountability. And all the things that you need to be able to show that you have met that is what Maduka was showing on the system. The second area, risk assessment, specifies suitable objectives, identifies and analyzes risk, assesses fraud risk, identifies and analyzes significant change. That you do the same thing there as well. We accept that it's not for every size of MSME. And as was mentioned by the panel, that there are some things that you will grow into. So part of what will be available on the portal also is e-learning, that you can even learn about the COSO framework, practice, understand all the things that are required to meet the standard, whether or not you decide to get help to do it. And then the day you are ready for certification, we will arrange an independent person to come and verify those things that you say you have in place. But at least you would have rehearsed. So by the time you're going for that important loan, it's not just to say, I have all of this, putting it on the table that I have improved my processes to this point, I think will really help with some of the larger SMEs. We accept that this is not for the micro enterprise. It's not for a micro enterprise. Control activities. Sets and develops control activities, selects and develops general controls over technology, deploys through policies and procedures. Again, lots of SMEs don't have policies and procedures, but on this portal, you'll be able to find templates. So the whole idea is that we would also like to be able to include even basic accounting, that you'll be able to find where you can keep your receipts or enter your spending and your income and get statements made out for you as well. So that's the idea, to have one portal that can help you organize all the things that you need to establish yourself as a bona fide enterprise, and not one that anyone else who wants to deal with you. And as was rightly mentioned on the panel, it's not only about finance. It's even the risk of dealing with you sometimes. Who are you? Who are you? Can we really have a good idea of who you are? Can we trust the information you're giving us? So before we go and spend a lot of money, have you put all the information on the table? And now we know what to go and verify. Transparency is all about the product of scrutiny matching the product of disclosure. If the two are identical, then there's transparency. And that is all that people that you do business with are looking for from you, that level of transparency from you. Okay, so distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I think we'll open it again to questions and answers. We still have the panelists, and we should open it for another round of questions. I know Ms. Yemisi Ransom Kuti had a comment that she wanted to make we couldn't take in the first round, so that will be one. Do we have any others? Any other comments? Yes, madam, in front here, and yourself, sir. So that will be the next three. If we start here, thank you.
Thank you very much. My comments are, one, the ethically challenged behavior issue. How do we have systems that celebrate those who are, doing the right thing, particularly at community levels? I think Buhari did it at the national level. I think there needs to be more at the community level to encourage others to do so. In the Lagos Island Connect program that we have, which is looking at how we can bring all our expertise together to develop a local government, the youth, the women, and the entrepreneurs within a local government, so that we can measure it and scale it across Lagos and the nation. We're partnering with the government, Lagos State government, on this. There's something we call the 100-mile rule, where we encourage an organization like Access Bank to look within 100 miles of its operations and not just wait for those who are banking with it, but to go out and do an outreach to find out where these businesses are, where these young entrepreneurs, where the innovations is happening, so that you begin to build and include them in your business practices, lending, and all of that, improving the local economy by doing so. Lastly, NASME, I'm wondering whether it's possible to localize the training. I think because in Lagos State, I think you just have one center. How can we have the same centers in every local government that will also partner with the e-learning kind of structure that we're beginning to develop? And also support services. Printers, for instance, have to go to Mushi to do their printing. How can we get in every local government these support services that will facilitate small businesses? Thank you very much.
Okay. The lady right here.
Thank you very much. I'm Simidele Onabajo, and I work with NAFDAC. and we have the mandate to regulate and control food, drugs, cosmetics, medical devices, packaged water. So I know that there are lots of maybe micro, small, and medium businesses in this hall. And challenges we've had with these businesses involve documentation, because they see it as burdensome, infrastructure development, and even though we know there's access to markets, especially exports, a lot of people in this sector don't really want to work with us because they believe our systems are not used internationally. But my charge today is to make them come over to the agency, which is NAFDAC, try to get their products certified in Nigeria. That will form a baseline for whatever they want to do internationally, because we cannot leverage our standards in Nigeria with every country in the world. But we are a member of Codex Alimentarius, which has a membership of over 180 countries. So we have at least the basic standards. So I would charge most of the people in the micro, small, and medium sector to leverage with NAFDAC. Now, if we have challenges with them leveraging with NAFDAC, how would they be able to comply with COSO 2013? Because it involves more documentation and infrastructure development, the way I'm looking at it. Thank you.
Okay, it sounds like we need to engage with you to find out how we can make it easier for people to comply. And yes, so we've got the basic information now on our website, which also links back to your website, so that as things change, we don't miss anything out. But do you think it will be helpful if we're able to aggregate what these needs are of SMEs and try to find, because I know many SMEs already believe, and I can give you one of the, and I'm sorry for answering on the NAFDAC one, is because it's really, really important to many organizations. They say, except you use a consultant that was recommended by somebody at NAFDAC, you don't pass in the end. You know, so we've had that kind of feedback. I haven't tried it myself, so I can't tell you it's authentic, but I've heard it from too many places. So many of them just shrug and say, well, why bother? So long as I don't use a logo or packaging, then I don't need NAFDAC. But we want to get people to comply. So we wonder if we should come to you and learn how to help them, especially with information. Now that we know, most people don't even check what is the right information. They go with the street information and they're turned off already at that level. I don't know how you...
What I would say is that all the information you need is on our website. What's the website? www.nafdac.gov.ng. For the micro, small, and medium, we have tried to streamline the procedure such that for you to register a product, it will cost you just 25,000 naira. But the issue is, because it involves a lot of documentation, people would rather employ consultants. NAFDAC does not certify or make it compulsory for you to use a consultant. But you know, there's a monopoly of choice. You could choose to use a consultant. But the unfortunate thing is that the consultant will collect his money and move on. My plea to MSMEs in this hall is that you know your procedure. It's a matter of sitting down and writing what you do, because it involves a lot of writing. That's where the challenge is. You know, a lot of us don't like to write. So if we could just take the pains of writing what we do, then it will be easier when the regulators come to see what you do, amend what you've done, and then tell you, correct it this way, and you move forward. But you say, no, do it for me, I will pay for you. At the end of the day, then, it will take a longer while, and they will fleece you of your money. People charge as high as 200,000, 300,000 for this assignment. So it's not really about NAFDAC per se, it's about choices that we make. So if we choose to do it ourselves with all the information that exists there, if you can take the time to study it, then I think it will be easy. But we are ready. When I say we, I mean NAFDAC are ready to collaborate with any focus group that is, that would apply to the agency and say, this is what we want to do. We look at how we can work with you because we exist in the 36 states of the Federation, including Lagos and the Federal Capital Territory. So yes, NAFDAC is ready to work with any focus group that wants to streamline businesses in Nigeria.
Thank you, ma'am. There was a third question here. Yeah. We'll allow the panelists to respond and maybe take one more round and call it quits there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm Emmanuel Ashibogu. I represent the Point Man, USA, on leadership. Actually, the moment I saw this invitation, ethics, it was what attracted me. I've been to your program before, and I think I have confidence in you. And I believe we call you Mr. Ethics for now, or Mr. Integrity. But there's something I want to say. What has eroded us is that many times you hear speakers coming to talk, Nigeria, Nigeria, Nigeria. They generalize Nigerians. I can tell you, I'm trained by Americans, and many people. Most of us are better than them in terms of ethics. By the way I came from my father's background and all, we believe in etiquette. And we live by the standard. So I want to say that we must come back home. We left training. We do not want to be trained again. We went through the fast track. Like I can say here, obviously I've told you, the moment I came in, I said, I'm sorry because I traveled vastly. Last year and this year, I couldn't meet with you again. Immediately after we met last time, I thought I wanted to inject in leadership ethics by character. What eroded us is character. We lost it totally, and we now move the other way for fast track. And I can still tell you, many Nigerians are still sound ethically and sound in character. I want us to believe that what killed us is that leadership is denied in Nigeria. We'll talk about sound leadership. Back up with sound ethics. That's why I was telling you, ethics is the international standard, or the standard acceptable in the whole world. When you talk of standard, you ask a Nigerian man going to China. I was just told not quite long, what Americans rejected and returned it back to China, Nigerians went and brought it back to Nigeria. If you talk of standard, we're zero. But if you talk of ethics, they will reject it. So I want to indulge your service. I'm ready. I represent Americans on leadership in Africa and here. We're ready to also join together with you to make sure we impart ethics training that works. Not all ethics works. Some are theoretical. But we talk of life and character and soundness. I imparted it to my children. My father imparted it to me. So I want to say, sir, we must come back to the level by which all the organizations, we need to impart them, like give them 30 minutes, 1 hour training on ethics and standard. So if they go back home, they will apply with banking rules and regulations. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I don't know if the panelists would like to respond.
On the NAFDAC one, I think it's a major problem that micro SMEs have, and so it goes back to what we're talking about, capacity. So the whole idea of documentation and having your standard operating procedure and maybe 3, 4, 5 levels of checks. The first, then the second, and then the third and the fourth. Some of the micro SMEs, and this is speaking from experience, from some of the ones we've worked with, because, like I said, on that AB fund, we have something that we call pre-investment readiness, which is to help people with things like NAFDAC. And so one of the problems they have, capacity, because when you even look at, maybe it's a business where you have only 2 or 3 people, and even literacy capacity, let's face it, where this is our education, there's a problem. So people cannot even write properly. And that's why a lot of people engage consultants. So maybe there's something that needs to be done there with so because if it's better if NAFDAC is saying that we've certified these people, walk through them, or maybe not through NAFDAC, or maybe through NASME, because these people don't have the capacity to put these SOPs together and to write it. So they will continually go and say, come and help me, consultants. And consultants, he or herself does not even, him or herself does not even know what to do, does not know what they are doing. His own capacity is probably even questionable, and will collect money from them and go. So since we understand that there's that gap, maybe we should have it standardized and formalized and say, we've vetted these people, we've certified them, sit down with them, work with them. You even know what they are supposed to charge and sort of find a way to build it. Because at the end of the day, they are paying more and they are not getting anything done. And working with the BMOs, that's what I want to suggest, on that NAFDAC part, so that many of them can get through this NAFDAC thing, because it's a major problem. You find very great products, but they don't have NAFDAC numbers. That's just what I want to add on NAFDAC.
Okay. Also, in addition to what Madam said, the new DG of NAFDAC has been doing a very great job sensitizing us about cost. When they brought out the new cost, the BMOs came together and we had a press conference that they have to reduce the cost of getting this certification, and not only cost, even the conditionalities. But since then, the DG has been going around to sensitize us. But one thing I need to advise NAFDAC is that let's have a key man, a point person, that now be working with either the NASME or the BMOs, so that immediately we have any problem or challenges, then we can really relate to that particular person, so that we know that person that will be anchoring for NAFDAC and working with all the BMOs. That is set. Then they have also liberalized some of the conditionality that the last time we met, we even said jokingly that we thought NAFDAC was a big masquerade, that the masquerade, the veil has been removed. So we can now work with NAFDAC and get all the certification done. Concerning NASME and localizing e-training that Madam Razon-Koti mentioned, NASME, we have started having local offices. We have started with Lekki Zone. We have Lekki Zone now. But we are still working with all other local governments so that we can have offices in all the 20 local governments of Lagos State. So I think that will take some time, but we have started. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Oh, yes.
Okay, so I wanted to respond to the comment about banks, the 100-mile initiative. I think it's a very interesting one, and I know that even as bankers, we have incentive to go out and engage and bring in clients. But from the intent of the initiative, the way she described it, I think what would also be very helpful is if entrepreneurs, MSMEs, find a way to belong to a community. Because, we talked about digitization, we talk about community, we're talking about reach. One of the reasons why banks still are not so attracted to the MSME segment is cost to serve. It's expensive. Yeah. So you hire a full officer and then you say, go and bring in this business. You bring in this small business that cannot even pay the salary. Yeah. So one of the things that we're also looking to be able to do and approach our consideration is that we want to begin to look at working with our communities. The communities, associations, not the body in itself, but members who belong to a cluster. Because then it begins to become easier to be able to engage. It begins to become easier to be able to provide services. Mr. Aderoju talked about LSTEF as being one of the most effective. One of the most effective organizations that is dealing with MSMEs. We are also partnering with them. And one of the reasons why you consider them to be effective is because they work through communities. They work through clusters. And so even the last man on the mile, you can reach them because they're part of the body, and they can also benefit from the provision of services that large organizations can also, provide for them. So I would say that we should introduce that matrix to the 100-mile initiative, where we encourage them to be part of an initiative. Part of an organization. The NAFDAC challenge about talking to people, paying people who don't even know how to do it, people who just exploit and extort you. If you're part of a community, those will be services that you'll be able to access, at the affordable rate, and it will be authentic. So it will not be that you're just running from pillar to post. I've had people give very frustrating stories of how long it's taking them to be able to access, to get a NAFDAC number. 1 year, 2 years. In fact, someone gave a testimony in my church. I'm telling you, she gave a testimony about, now I have NAFDAC number. And I thought to myself, is it that bad? Seriously? But it's true. That's the reality in the market. But I'm just saying that when there's an ecosystem, when there's a cluster, when there's a collaboration, when there are platforms like this, it just it demystifies all of these issues. And then we can really begin to, because this access, we say access to finance. It's not the finance that is a challenge. It's assessing it. And see, if you're a manufacturer, you want to take a loan from the bank, who will ask you for a NAFDAC number. Yeah. You say you are a health practitioner, who would ask you for your license. Do you know how long it takes to also get a license to be as a health practitioner? Some of these things, they're unthinkable. But then there are the issues that we need to really focus on and resolve to help us to now really begin to democratize even funding. Thank you.
Okay. Can I ask on our behalf here, how many of us, we will have one last round, how many of us can provide services to other people that you think you can provide services in this room? Okay, there's a number of us. Your registration online on the system is free. Register. Then, because what I want to do is to challenge Access Bank that we're going to hold their skirts. We're going to hold the helm of their skirts. Because if all of us come on the platform as a community and we have been brought together by one standard, which is to meet ethical standards, the direct question is, if we can prove that we have our regulatory compliance and we have the ethical standards as well, and we have other service providers that can help us remove the obstacles in the way of access, will you look at us?
I'm already looking at you.
Okay.
Okay. So one of the variables in lending is one of the variable costs is cost of risk. And that's why sometimes you will say that it's expensive to lend to MSMEs, because you're taking a risk that a lot of other lending organizations are not taking. So you price for risk, risk-based pricing. Now, if you're part of a platform like this that is helping to be able to de-risk what you do, some of the issues that banks consider to be risk that we say, you know what, yes, I'm going to give this customer this loan, but then I have recognized or identified some risk challenges and I have to price for that. So one of the ways it will be able to help us is to look at the fact that you're here and there's a credibility on this platform because you've gone through the certification, then it will help us to be able to remove that cost of risk and you'll be able to take lending at a much lower pricing. That will be the quickest way to be able to do that. So already, even as a bank, for clients who do not provide us with collateral, their pricing is different from those who provide collateral because we see collateral as a proxy for de-risking. So if you do not have collateral and you're here and we've recognized this platform as one that is helping to be able to de-risk some of these operational issues, then it also means that you'll be able to get pricing concession. It means that you'll be able to get even a concession on collateral requirement. And so those are things that we can articulate and put together as a framework to be able to partner with you. Because partnership is key to being able to scale up and reach more MSMEs.
Do we agree as a group that we should approach this?
Okay, my comment is actually on the portal itself. Yes. So I said that a lot of the links go to the website of those regulatory agencies. Yes. My feedback is that there should be some independent way or mechanism that's like offline independent mechanism to check the accuracy of many of those things, because a lot of regulatory agencies in Nigeria, websites are not updated. And when you now want to start the process, that's when they start telling you, oh, that one, we put it there, 2013, the process has changed. So you have to have like a combination of offline, maybe when you were talking street checking, offline, to periodically check that many of these things are still as they are, on the portal.
No, this will be our responsibility is to make sure that it is constantly updated and that the information is there. The reason we put the link is just in case anybody is concerned. Where did you get this information from? That they can actually go to the website, for example, of NAFDAC and double check and have some confidence that we're not leading them astray, that this is exactly what NAFDAC is requiring. So we're hoping that if we have enough people who are interested in this, then this is a service that we will take up and invest in to make sure that we have service providers. Because if you have enough of those consultants who can help you with NAFDAC and they're registered on that platform, what we do with the platform is to check the quality of service. So if they say that it would take you 10 days, we ensure that it takes place in 10 days or it's your money back. That's the kind of guarantee that we want to be able to give you, and that if they're on the site, you should not be having integrity issues with them to start with. That these are bona fide consultants who are helping you. So it's that kind of thing that we're hoping the site can do to make sure that there's that marketplace that helps SMEs. Okay, last set of questions before we go for lunch. There was the gentleman here, the gentleman in the red shirt, and the lady, I'm really pleased to say. Thank you. You, sir, Mr. Sejiro. Okay, the mic to him. Yeah.
Okay, firstly, my name is Sejiro, and I'm a farmer. I'm a fish farmer.
All the way from Badagry. Please, a round of applause for him.
Yeah. Firstly, I must commend CBI for the crop of panelists they brought on board. I think they dealt with most of the issues, and even your keynote address too touched some of the challenges we have. And basically, drawing from all of those, I can say that is a systemic challenge that we have. It's a systemic challenge. All right.
Apologies for that.
Yeah, it's a systemic challenge that we have, and I think we need a collective solution approach to solving it holistically before we can move further. One of such is, I'm just going to make a quick illustration. Like you said, I came all the way from Badagry, and like the man from the MSME, whatever, spoke earlier, that the condition, even if you have the character and the condition is not favorable, you can't do much. Understand? Coming here from Badagry, I left home around 5 a.m. And getting here to me is like the success of my business. You understand? And the condition on the way was, the traffic was crazy. The vehicle I was coming in broke down. I had to come down. I was about calling that I can't make it again. Look at the condition, that is systemic. I was about going back home. But later on, I had to pick a bike. And I came down here on a bike from Badagry. Understand? So the same thing with my business. Regardless of all of the ideas and professionalism that comes into the business, if the system is faulty, you can't achieve success. And what I said holistically is that in the sector I belong to, there are value chains, you understand? Now, with all of the ideas and everything, profit, everything is certain, you understand? Access to funding is very, very frustrating. I'm interested with what the banker said as regards opportunities. How can you make this opportunity, or what deliberate efforts are you making that these opportunities can get to those that really need the opportunity, because it goes beyond writing down the proposals and making it look nice, you understand? But going down to those, if you see a viable business, you should know from your experience. And how can you deliberately help such businesses to grow? That is one. Then the other one is part of the systemic challenges we have is logistics. You understand? We've had issues transporting a haulage, and at the end of the day, because of traffic station and some things, you end up losing everything on the way. That is beyond an individual. You can only be a part of a whole. You can't be a whole. So that is that. So these bottlenecks, how can we really take care of it? Then, like you said, incentives shaping human behavior. So if these conditions are taken care of, sincerely speaking, businesses will thrive in Nigeria. And the issue of clusters, that's what we're doing in Lagos State now. The association is very vibrant now. We're trying to make all farmers come out. A lot of farmers are suffering in silence. They are doing it in isolation. You understand? Information dissemination is very difficult. But now, because you're bringing everybody on board, if you're a farmer, like all I've got in here today now, disseminating it to the farmers. We're having our state meeting tomorrow, general meeting tomorrow. So definitely I'm just going to share this at the meeting, and it's going to go round. So I think all other sectors of the economy too needs to come together and make things easier. Thank you.
By the way, he's the vice chairman of the Catfish Farmers Association of Lagos State. Okay. Sorry, we'll come to the last two. Yes.
I think it's a very holistic, summary that you gave. And that's an industry that is very close to me because it was a business my brother-in-law did, catfish. And agric generally is a very difficult value chain. If you see any banker that knows what they are doing, they will not mince words with you, because the kind of risk that you have in agriculture is not. You cannot even price. We don't even have the right mechanism to price those risks, the right instruments. We don't have agric insurance, for instance. And even if you have agric insurance, all the different products have different life cycles, have different risks. Fish is different from poultry. Poultry is different from piggery. It's different from cassava. So it's an extremely difficult value chain. I'm happy that you are representing the association, because I think one of the things that needs to happen is that collectively, the association needs to start looking at and I think before financing, who can they approach that can start helping them build some of those mechanisms that can de-risk, that can show how to price agribusiness. So maybe work with insurance companies to understand the business better on how to price the risk of agribusiness. It can only be done on a collective level because, individually it's too fragmented. And so that's it. When a number of those things have been done, then the second thing will now be access to market. That access to market is also a way to de-risk for agric producers, which is if you have off-takers, if you have arrangements where people can guarantee a percentage of off-take at a level before you bear all the risk. So you are sharing the risk with the off-taker. They are going to take some of your produce at a point before you bear all the risk without finding any buyer. If you have some of those mechanisms, which again is easier on a cluster point of view, because you don't have off-takers that have access to say, okay, I can get this amount of volume from this group. Those things will eventually then help to have access to financing, to be able to get loan from banks, to be able to get loan from or investment from fund managers. A lot of times, agric is very difficult to price, and that's why people just invest. Financiers just move on.
Okay. Very quickly, there was a lady here, yes, and the gentleman in the red shirt. I'm really sorry. I'm going to be very strict, but we're going to continue the interaction thereafter. Yes.
Okay. Good day, everybody. I do not run a small-scale business, but I'm representing a mobile money licensee who is known for works we've done in agriculture. So currently, we run a blockchain technology in agric called AgriCore. So I've listened to all of the contributions, and I'm trying to tie it into the service as a service provider and as a licensee. So I'm not exactly a bank, but I'm other financial institutions. So for AgriCore, we try to bring stakeholders together, but centering around the farmers. So the farmer has inputs, he has produce, he doesn't know where to take it to.
He doesn't know how much he's going to get it. Donors, investors, commodity buyers. So when we started off, we started supplying commodity buyers on a large scale who might want some certain inputs like rice, maize, millet from some northern states. So right now, I want to know, so as a platform provider in agriculture based on blockchain, how do we key into this platform, for instance? Yeah.
The how
Yes.
is that you just come on as a service provider. But then you are a mega service provider. We should look beyond just the functionality on the platform to how best to leverage numbers. Because we also happen to be doing things in agriculture beyond this. So I think this is something we should talk about later, offline. Yes. But the good news, while we were speaking, someone sent a note and said, how can I get someone to develop my business plan? You are here. Are you hearing? Good. Who are the specialists on business plan? We need to review you. We need to review you and get you on the system. You understand the marketplace. Now, okay, the gentleman in the red shirt. Okay, can see there is
Good afternoon.
big need. Yes.
I have a quick question. I have a quick question for the banker.
Okay.
I have a quick question for the banker. I am not very happy today, and I'm not very happy today, and I hope the banker will be able to help me out with the answer to this question. I am just wondering, why on earth would one bank write a negative report about a customer to another bank when that customer is no longer owing you? The issue at hand had been settled amicably, and a full and final had been arrived at and implemented and sealed and done with. And this bank still went ahead to write a negative report about that customer to another bank that they were dealing with. Is this standard procedure? Thank you.
Okay, although not strictly in line with what we're here to discuss. Okay, the banker would like to talk to you afterwards. Okay, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I just want to finish with this. Some people were concerned that you're dropping the precious word ethics and replacing it with the common word standards. I want to give you our definition of ethics. It's all about doing the right things and doing things right. That's all that ethics is. What is excellence? It's doing the right things and doing things right. What is it to meet standards? It's about doing the right things and doing things right. We haven't dropped ethics at all. So if you are able to meet the standard of doing the right thing and doing things right, then by and large you'll be ethical. So please, let's just drop the precious word and go on with something that is more acceptable. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, okay, I can't see him. Mr. Shogunle, please, if you can come forward and just have a last word before we close for the day. Sorry, he's our panelist who, I apologize, was stuck in traffic. If you can make just a quick submission, we really apologize for Lagos, but he's been dealing with all of us. Mr. Kehinde Shogunle was former Commissioner for Finance, Ogun State, former Director General Budget as well, and he runs an accounting firm and is one of those service providers that are willing to help with whether it's business plan, it's tax returns, and so on for SMEs. I'll let him speak for himself.
Thank you very much. I'm so sorry that I have to come late. It's the contextual issues. We were stuck, left Abeokuta at 5 o'clock, got here about 11 o'clock. And my friend was saying on the way, if I had an helicopter somewhere along the line. But you see, I just said I will have to justify the invitation by saying one or two things.
Okay, sorry.
You see, as somebody who is somehow involved in the value chain of entrepreneurship development, One of those things I need to make clear is that entrepreneurship is good, enterprise development is good, but many people are not entrepreneurs. We have to accept that fact. The one basic thing that has to go for every entrepreneur, critical, is the competencies of entrepreneurship, which is also risky. This risk-prone behavior, which is going for opportunities, going for challenges, and then creating solutions to those challenges. And a lot of us are not there. And that is really why we complain when we have to pass through processes that will ensure that we are successful entrepreneurs. So people can complain about NAFDAC, people can complain about banks, people can complain about standards or ethics. The way to success for being an entrepreneur is that you must meet standards. And it starts with personal standards. And those personal standards are the things you call ethics, character. I saw the elucidation of that around ethics. So without integrity, without character, without honesty and all of that, you cannot do good business. The passport to it, the entry point is that you must come worthy to be dealt with. And for many funders, what they're looking for is not even the beauty of your business plan or even your business. It's about you. So that is why this is very important. So then goes to the business itself. A lot of us don't also define the business. We are all emergency entrepreneurs who want to make money today, tomorrow. Everybody come inside type of business. Let me just make money. That is not the way it is done, where it is done well. There is a lot of what I call porter-cabin portfolio businesses who want to grow big. It's not just possible. And when we're talking MSMEs, SMEs, it's not those kind of businesses we should be talking about when they're talking standards to. It's businesses that can scale, that can grow, that can really, and they happen. Most of the big businesses we still do. Walmart started from as a corner shop. Alibaba didn't start as a big that Alibaba, Jack Ma. Okay. They started, but they understood what ethics means. They understood what standards is, and they followed it, and they replicated it globally. So if you really want to grow, you can't. I don't quarrel with NAFDAC. I don't quarrel with standards. He knows me. I don't quarrel with controls, with standards, with integrity. It is, can you meet it? If you can't meet it, better go and get a job. So we need to tell ourselves the facts. We can complain about government. We can complain about everybody. But are we ready to really give value? And that is what the bankers are looking for. That is what the standard people are looking for. That is what our markets are looking for. It is not that there is no market. It's not that there is no finance. But are people ready to do the things that are required to access the market, to access the finance? I think that's what the other thing is, okay, the other thing is about our models. We found out in our work with entrepreneurs is that most business models are very, very weak. There is no scalability factor, sustainability factor. You can't grow replications. People are just repeating the same business. No creativity, no innovation. Yet, you want to get somebody's money. So, let us go and examine. Talk to service providers. They help you examine your business model. Can it attract funding? Is it sustainable? Can it grow? It can't be pure water business. It can't be, everybody wants to do the same thing. And the moment you are not, and what is your differentiating factor? What is your distinctive value proposition? And once the people who are reading these things, who want to give you money, are not seeing it, they just say, you are not ready. That is the business itself. Then it comes back to your organization, and that's where we lose it. Even though if we have a good business model, a lot of people are not even preparing their businesses, and that's why we find our work on compliance very interesting. The setup, your ownership, your business structure, your policies, and those are the kind of things that SCOSO is trying to do. To play in World Cup, you have to meet World Cup standards. There is no shortcuts. You don't do minimum level of training, they drop you. Or you don't perform consistently, you are dropped. So for us to play in the kind of game that entrepreneurs must play as catalysts to development, we must enter the standard, the World Cup standard for entrepreneurship. So money is not, like they said. And now the other part is, when we're talking also funding, don't just look at banks. Banks, Nigerian banks, are not configured to support SMEs. They are commercial banks. They are not enterprise development organizations. They are now all, maybe forcing, yes, thank you for supporting me in that. There are now other sources of funding. Their angels are there. Their venture capitalists are there. There are a lot of other funders are there, but they are looking for a lot of things. What is your character as a person? What is your business model? What is your business structure? And then the marketability and sustainability. Once you can convince those funders about those things, you will have access to finance. Somebody said, I listened for the back. The financing is not the problem. The accessing is the problem. The question is, are you ready? As an individual, as an organization, and with all the controls that are necessary to do that. I think that's the only thing I could have added to this. I think I've justified the stress of 5 minutes. Thank you very much.
Please, just one word on this COSO 2013 standard.
You see, it is, like I said,
yes, most
you
people
cannot
have never
play.
heard about
You cannot
before.
play World Cup without meeting. We say we are football enthusiasts. I mean, we all play. We have clubs. I don't have Nigeria. I don't have clubs because I don't believe in. But I know those who are fanatic of it know, for Man U to be able to play well, there are some things they must do. And the world is not going to bend for us, particularly if we want to engage the rest of the world. They're not going to bend. And so that's why they have set up those standards, so that anybody dealing with you, in any other part of the world, knows that once those things are there, then they can say, okay, we can relate to this person. That is what the standards are for. And they define every element. I think they must have talked about that. Every element. And once you have the discipline, we have gone through experiences with them. When you have gone through that discipline of going through that, you also will feel good. Yeah. You know, there's this other part about, even sustainability I'm talking about, passing it on. You are running a business, and that's what has happened in Nigeria so much. You see successful business of those days gone by. Where are they today? It is those standards that can ensure intergenerational, wealth. So all the efforts of all those, I don't want to mention a lot of names, there are so many. Some of us did studies of that. What is lacking is the fact that the businesses were built on individuals, not on systems and processes. And what COSO is trying to do is to make sure that those systems and processes are in your organization. For support and all of that, 1 minute of marketing. 2 organizations that we run. Okay, 2 ties also. I also mentioned to my friend. On standards and all of that, COSO is good. This is also a very good initiative because I've gone through it. There's also a lot of movement now around capacity building for SMEs. We just did one work with GIZ, and there's a platform also like this called SME Sabi. Okay. We were talking about business plans. When you go through those 4, we did pilots for them on that. And once you go through those modules, add this to it. You can prepare your business plan. Then you can have the standards to this. Then you are ready for the market. The question is, I always ask that question, how many Nigerians are ready to go through what it takes? Thank you very much.
Okay, so distinguished ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. It's lunchtime. We thank you very much for braving the traffic and coming all the way here. Please, there are a lot of people in the crowd. Don't let them go without interviewing them. Please, let's get the voices of ordinary people like me on what is happening in our country today. Please, but stay around for lunch. Join me in giving a round of applause to all our panelists, please. And to once again thank ActionAid and DFID for funding this engagement. Thank you very much indeed.